Hi everyone, hope you're having a good week so far, and I just wanted to give you some insight into our Excel project for this week. So really what we're going to do is build on what we did last week, and I'll show you how. This is question 27 from, I forget which one, from 1.3 part B, I think. Exercise 1.3b, says right there. And this is the question in your assignments that directs you to doing the Excel project. So it says, make sure all members of your group have seen the pattern of budget and expense records found in all safely gathered in, and one for the money. Make sure that you've read those. If you haven't read them yet, you need to read them. You don't have to have them read before you can start this project, though. Just make sure that you get those read. Begin a monthly budget and record your expenses. That will continue through the remainder of the semester. So from now on, you should have started tracking your expenses and income by now. If you haven't, then start now. And you're going to be doing that for the rest of the semester, so don't stop. Let's see, it says commit to reporting to your group and receiving reports when all have created spreadsheets titled budget and expenses. I'm not a stickler on that you have to report to your group, but it's a really good idea that you need to report to somebody. And it's really helpful if it's somebody in your class, or either in your online class here with us, or to your gathering group. So even though many of you have husbands or sons or daughters or other family members or friends or something that you could report to, that's fine. Hopefully your spouse, if you have one, is helping you with this project, because it's their budget too. But I'd like you to just help be each other's accountability partners. Anyway, so let's go into the assignment. So over here I have it pulled up already. This is the budget and expenses part 1. So there's going to be more parts to it later on, but we'll get to that later. So here's the rubric for it. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom here. Students' spreadsheet is submitted as an attached file. 3 points for turning it in as a spreadsheet. Student spreadsheet is well organized and easy to read. Some of you I included in the feedback from this last week, ways that you could improve the labels on your budgets, or adding a title. Some of you didn't have like a total for your expenses. And so the reason why that's helpful is because if, let's just say this is, let's just say this here is my budget. If I don't have a total here at the bottom, then in order to look at it and say, how much am I spending? I have to go through and in my head add up 9, 5, 6, 2, and 3. If I already have the total written here, all I have to do is look at it and say, I'm spending this much. And I can come up here, maybe my income is written up here, and then I can say, oh, I'm making this much, I'm spending this much. So I can easily tell if I'm spending more or less than I'm making. And many of you have income less expenses as well, like at the bottom or something. And so, which already does that math for you, so you can just look at it and see, do I have extra left over? Another comment that I made to several of you is, what would you do with that extra? So I'm going to switch over to my spreadsheet here. This is how I would do, this is just a sample budget, but this is how I would do the budget. I want my income less expenses to be 0. And the reason is, I don't want it to go below 0. But if I've got $100 of income less expenses, that means I'm spending $100 less than I'm making. Then that $100 of income less expenses is not planned for anything. So what am I going to do with that $100? So what I would do is, when I finished making my budget here, and I have, let's just say, $100 left over, I would go back up here and I'd say, okay, where can I put that $100? And if there's not another category that needs it, then I would just put it in my savings to build up my savings. But on the other hand, you could get to this point where you've got negative $200 and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm spending $200 more than I make. Then I would go up here and say, where can I trim out some of my budget? Maybe take 20 off here. Maybe I don't need 150 for transportation. I can cut that down to 130. Maybe I plan for medical, but you know what? Maybe I can bump it down a little bit because I don't have any planned trips to the doctor or something. And so that way I can make it even out. Okay, so let me go back to here. Student is using let's skip this one for now. Student is using an electronic spreadsheet, so made from scratch. So just like last time, you can use the one that you made from scratch last time, but I just don't want you to go into Excel and search the templates for a budget and then use that one. That's not what we're doing here, because I want you guys to make the budget yourself, and it's going to include the things that you want in your budget. And then, so from now on, you're going to be tracking actual expenses. You get 9 points for tracking your actual expenses and income. Now, I skipped this one earlier, and it says student is using a budget as well as tracking income and expenses. So if you use a budget, which you already made a budget last time, and your budget for last week was for the year 2023, which I don't think I included in my video last time. Sorry about that. But your budget was for 5 years from now. Now you can just erase those numbers if you want and write in the real numbers for right now. What is your budget like right now? How much money do you bring home in 1 month? And how much money do you spend on all your categories in 1 month? So now you're making your budget for right now for you, and you're going to add to that tracking your income and expenses. So it can be as simple as this. Right next to your budget that you've already created, you can just write date, amount, description, or memo, or something like that. And then you can leave this blank, and you can just, every time you buy something, you can come in here and you can say January 23rd, $342 and food or something. I don't know how many people buy $342 worth of food in one shopping trip very often, but maybe you went to Costco. But the point is, it can be as simple as that, or it can be something like this, where I have it broken down into a week at a time, and then I can just kind of keep a running total. And so every time I spend money, I can add that in there. The only thing with doing this is that I want to be able to keep my income and expenses separate. I wouldn't want to add them. I wouldn't want to put them in the same box. So, so maybe you could have, maybe this is my expenses, and then maybe down here, I would, let's just copy that, paste it down here. So maybe I would do something like this, where I've got cut that, and so maybe you could do something like that. Oops, get rid of that. There we go. Where you're tracking your income up here and your expenses down here. So you can do it however you want. Something to take note of is that it says actual spending for the week should be filled in. Space for provision should be provided for tracking future items. What that means is this week's expenditures should be filled in, You should have stuff filled in for this week by the time you turn it in. And there should be spots where you plan to fill in for next week. So if you did it like this, you would have something in here, and you would have these dates already put in, and these boxes here would be blank because you're planning to fill these in the future weeks. So that's all it is. That's all that this assignment is. So if you have any questions on it, feel free to send me an email, or you can ask each other on the question and comments board. And